A battle for influence.
China's beginning to change some of the rules of the game.
President Biden is wrapping up a tour of Asia, stopping by Vietnam after the Group of 20 summit in India's capital. The weekend event saw a notable absence from Chinese leader Xi Jinping, who hasn't missed a G20 summit since taking office a decade ago. What does his no-show mean for the gathering?
The world that Beijing is attempting to create is not one that most of the rest of the world want to join.
What do you think? Let us know below and subscribe if you haven't already. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Before we plunge into today's headlines, here's a juicy scoop for you. How deadly was China's COVID-19 pandemic? We're all aware of Beijing's suppression of virus origin data, but hidden details are still lurking in the shadows. Our exclusive report dives deep to reveal the untold part of the story, and the truth is shocking. Mark your calendars for this Wednesday, September 13th, as we uncover the unsettling reality surrounding China's secret COVID-19 death toll, here on China in Focus.
Beijing is facing its worst COVID outbreak.
Around 250 million people were infected during the first weeks of December.
China had reported only 37 deaths caused by COVID-19.
We urge China to be fully transparent about what's going on.
We do know that we don't know the cases right now.
The BBC has found evidence of a considerable COVID death toll in China's rural areas.
If you visit local crematoriums, there's a lot of people have died.
WHO still believes that deaths are heavily underreported from China.
The regime's prestige is based upon this idea that they are really good managers of everything that's going on in the country, and if the COVID numbers are not supporting that, well, one way to address that problem is to eliminate the COVID numbers, right?
Within 8 days, I lost 5 close relatives.
The
information that we got at the front end of this thing wasn't perfect and has led us now to a place where much of the challenge we face today.
It's very important for us to be on the same page.
That is what China has not allowed to happen.
If you cannot get real data from China, all your estimations will be way off.
My close relatives, among them, there are 4 died already. That is from one family.
We calculated how long each furnace burns, and then we came back to make an overall estimate, which is around 380 million.
A difficult summit. This year's G20 gathering in New Delhi is going far beyond economic talks, as U.S.-China tensions appear to be taking the center stage. Let's take a look.
A notable absence from Chinese leader Xi Jinping during the G20 meeting last weekend. The forum helps shape global economic cooperation among many of the world's hardest-hitting markets. The Epoch Times White House correspondent Amela Khan weighs in from India.
China's Xi is not here is not important for us. So we are here, the President Biden is here, and he's ready to deliver results. And that's what we had heard from the administration.
About half of the G20 members are U.S. allies, and Washington is pushing for a tougher China stance. Because of that, some analysts say Xi's no-show could signal Chinese dissatisfaction with the existing world order.
Xi Jinping has established BRICS really as his mechanism and as his alternative in the world that he's trying to create.
Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa make up the BRICS economic group. Some suggest it's China's attempt to rally nations away from Western power. The group met late last month. Now, China's preparing for its upcoming Belt and Road Infrastructure Forum in October. Both are stars in Beijing's constellation for global influence. But why is Xi's absence at the G20 raising so much debate?
When Xi Jinping is not there to take away some of the oxygen, some of the attention, the Americans have a good opportunity. And even better, the Indians have an opportunity to really shine on the international stage as something of an alternative to China as the colossus, as the future.
Over the weekend, President Biden and other G20 allies unveiled an ambitious project.
This is a big deal. This is a real big deal.
A plan to build a rail and shipping corridor linking India with the Middle East and Europe. That's on top of another announcement.
I proposed a long time ago at the G7, now it's going to come to fruition at the G20, is making sure that we build a railroad all the way across the African continent.
It gives Biden the opportunity really to show that most of the world is in concert with the United States, and the world that the United States has led is one which still offers the rest of the world a far greater path than the one that China is attempting to create.
According to the Financial Times, Beijing has opposed plans for the U.S. to take on the G20's presidency in 2026, though the White House already announced it.
A truly historic moment, according to President Joe Biden. He made his first visit to Vietnam Monday as the two nations level up their relations. Starting now, the country will consider Washington a comprehensive strategic partner. The title is Vietnam's highest tier of international partnership, previously given to China and Russia. Nations around the world are hunting for alternatives to Chinese supply chains, and Hanoi is looking to balance out its relations with stronger ties to the U.S. and Europe. At the same time, Washington aims to counter Beijing's influence in the region.
I am sincere about getting the relationship right. And one of the things that is going on now is China's beginning to change some of the rules of the game.
He said he's not looking to hurt or decouple from China, but
I'm not going to sell China material that would enhance their capacity to make more nuclear weapons.
Beijing lashed out over the approach, saying the development of bilateral relations between countries should not target a third party. Executives from the U.S. and Vietnam gathered later, striking major tech and aviation deals. Biden emphasized collaboration in cloud computing, semiconductors, and artificial intelligence, and stressed Vietnam's important role in critical minerals. It's home to the world's second biggest rare earth deposits, essential for electric car and wind turbines. Global infrastructure investments driven by ulterior motives. That's the question concerning lawmakers and experts who say Beijing may be trying to create military bases out of foreign seaports it's funding. Right now, China only has one official military base in Djibouti, Africa. It's just a few miles from the U.S. military base there, but a report says China might be gunning for more. Under its Belt and Road Initiative, the Chinese regime has poured almost $30 billion into ports around the world, expanding or building 78 ports. And a report from Aid Data says some of those ports might become Chinese military bases in times of war. Here are the top 8 options. First off, the Hambantota port in Sri Lanka. China already has a 90-year lease on the facility. Next in line are bases in Equatorial Guinea, Pakistan, and Cameroon, followed by the Ream Naval Base in Cambodia, plus others in the South Pacific and Africa. Beijing launched its Belt and Road Initiative 10 years ago. A decade later, how are countries involved faring right now? A dozen of them say they're not seeing the returns they had hoped for and have debt piling up instead. On that list are Pakistan, Kenya, Zambia, Laos, Mongolia, and others. Their outstanding bills to China have eaten into their tax revenue, money needed to pay for food and electricity. Most of them are using over a third of their government revenue to pay off debt. That's according to analysis from the Associated Press. Zambia and Sri Lanka were hit the hardest. Both have defaulted on their loans. Sri Lanka lost about 500,000 jobs since its default. Inflation hit over 50%, and many parts of the country are now stuck in poverty. The country also had to hand over a port to China on a 99-year contract. The port, called the Hambantota, sits on a crucial location. It's less than 10 miles away from one of the world's busiest shipping routes. It's also nearby one of the world's busiest oil transport routes. The path links two of the world's most important oil transit choke points, the Strait of Hormuz and the Strait of Malacca. Countries like China, Japan, and South Korea depend on it for the bulk of their oil supplies. In Kenya, thousands of civil service workers couldn't get paychecks because the government had to first pay for its debt. In Pakistan, millions of textile workers lost their jobs. The reason? The indebted government couldn't afford to keep the electricity running. China is very secretive about the terms of its loans, making it challenging for other lenders to help. Italy is reportedly planning to exit China's international infrastructure program, known as the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI. We spoke with Antonio Graceffo, China economic analyst and author of Beyond the Belt and Road, China's Global Economic Expansion, for a look at the reasons behind the departure and the possible long-term implications. It seems Italy may leave China's Belt and Road Initiative. Many groups in Italy want them to leave. To begin, why is it important to the U.S. whether Italy stays or leaves?
Well, basically, when Italy originally wanted to join the Belt and Road, it was because their economy is in so much trouble. Now, for Biden at this moment and the EU, the EU and Biden are pretty much on the same side now in terms of their China policy, that they're really seeing China more as an adversary rather than just a competitor, in which case they need everybody on board. And having Italy, as a member of the BRI weakens the G7, weakens the EU policy towards China.
And by being a member of the Belt and Road, what leverage did that give China then?
Well, that gave China great leverage because then, first of all, China was able to increase their exports to Italy. And this is the main reason why the country is leaving. Aside from the geopolitical issues, is that Italy is absolutely not seeing any economic benefit from joining the BRI. The exports of China into Italy have increased by 51%, while Italian exports to China have only increased by, I believe, 23 or 26%. So China has got the lion's share of that benefit. The other shocking thing is that Chinese FDI into Italy is now roughly 1/20th of what it was before Italy joined BRI. So there's no benefit at all to Italy.
If Italy does leave the Belt and Road Initiative, what kind of message is that sending to China? How big of a blow is it?
I think it's a huge blow. It's a huge symbolic blow. It may not have any economic effect, but it's a huge, let's say, a diplomatic setback for China.
Is a second pandemic looming over China? Regions across the nation are dealing with a surge in asthma-like symptoms. Chinese officials pointing to what's known as thunderstorm asthma, an allergic reaction triggered by thunderstorms. But why are people getting sick in places with clear skies? Let's dive in.
After a heavy rainstorm, hospitals in the northern Chinese city of Hohhot got overwhelmed by a round of asthma-like attacks. Footage shows hundreds lining the halls for treatment. A city official confirmed with NTD.
Many people are checking into urgent care, and a lot of them are having asthma symptoms. From what I understood, this is not an issue of nuclear radiation or vaccine injuries. It's more likely a pollen allergy, but there is no official explanation.
Worth noting, very few flowers bloom in the city in September. Similar asthma cases also surface in Beijing and southern Guangdong province. Respiratory clinics are dealing with twice as many patients as usual. Chinese state-run media concluded that the outbreak is a result of thunderstorm asthma. Those affected often present allergy symptoms such as cough and shortness of breath. Here's the question. If storms are the cause, why are cases popping up in places like Guangdong, which haven't had so much as a drizzle in the forecast? Instead, some believe COVID-19 is making a comeback in the area. Others suggest vaccines have weakened the public's immune response to allergic reactions. We'll keep you updated as more details emerge.
Turning now to flooding in southeast China, a tropical storm bringing heavy rainfall to the coastal province of Fujian. Local authorities suddenly released excess water from nearly 600 dams without notifying residents. Floodwater soon swept across residential areas, threatening lives and livelihoods. Footage shows cities and villages submerged under muddy water, leaving vehicles stranded on the streets. One resident said that she started reaching out for help after spotting a crack in the dam, but didn't get a response.
There's a crack in the dam, and they didn't want me to take pictures. I've been calling people about it, but no one was here to check it out. No one from my village could take care of it. I've already left home. I'm staying somewhere else right now.
Another suggested a more sinister cause.
We're living in a mountain. There can't be any storms nor floods. It is all man-made. It's vicious. The dams were opened on purpose. Once everyone's gone, everything is theirs.
In another village, officials released excess water from 9 dams at the same time. Local tea farmers could only watch as the torrent washed away large sacks of their tea harvest. Take a look at this video shared by a resident in Shenzhen. According to the social media report, local authorities decided to fully open the floodgates of the local dam, sending a muddy surge into the streets. That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for 2 years. Here's what to look out for in our second half. A strengthened partnership with an old foe. President Joe Biden is wrapping up his trip to Vietnam. But what's at stake for relations with Hanoi? And what does Washington want out of them? We sat down with Ray Powell, Sea-Light Director at the Gordionaut Center for National Security Innovation, for details. The full episode is available on our partner platform, Epic TV. To sign up, click the link down below. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. See you tomorrow.